Hello everyone and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry, a fan channel where everything Dragalia Lost can be found. Today's video is going to be my review of the new summon showcase, the Desert Jewel and the Abyssal Flame. This new banner lasts for 2 weeks until November 14th, and considering it's full of flame units, it's tempting for the new Wind Raid, Kindness and Captivity, which also launched today in Dragalia Lost. So if you already have a raid team trained up, you may be wondering if this new showcase is worth your hard-earned Wyrmite and Diamantium. I will try to answer the question of whether to summon by going through all of the Wyrmprints, dragons, and adventurers on this banner. Time codes are on screen now, and at the end of the video, I'll provide my final verdict and let you know whether I'll be pulling or not. As usual, this showcase features 5 Wyrmprints, 2 dragons, and 3 adventurers. Rates are unchanged from the previous showcase, and, like most of us assumed, Halloween units are gone from the gacha pool. So, without further ado, let's get into it, starting with Wyrmprints. When it comes to Wyrmprints, let me provide my usual disclaimer. These typically aren't the main reason for summoning, but they are nice to pick up along the way, given that they're of a high quality. And this time around, the rares do look quite good, but we'll get to that in a minute. The 3-star focus Wyrmprint is a new one, the Halidam's Picnic. Pull a single copy, and it can attain max stats of 32 HP and 10 strength. It only has one ability, Sleep Res plus 15%, which was not previously available on Wyrmprints. The closest counterparts we had were other ailment res Wyrmprints like Tracks of Hope, which has identical stats, but resists stun instead of sleep. Unbind the Halidam's Picnic twice, and you unlock its second artwork, and unbind it fully, and its ability upgrades to 20%, with max stats of 76 HP and 20 strength. Nothing too remarkable. And although I'm a fan of the cute food and the artwork, I still tend to prefer shots of characters to still life and landscapes. Overall, this Wyrmprint is, not surprisingly, pretty bad. It's power crept by Better Together from the raid event, which provides the same sleep res ability, in addition to higher stats and 2 other abilities. I recommend selling any copies of the Halidam's Picnic you pull for Eldwater. Moving on, the first 4-star Wyrmprint is an oldie but a goodie, Together We Stand. This ranks alongside Flower in the Fray, Warlust, and the Warrioresses as the Wyrmprints with the highest strength in the 4-star pool. With just one copy, you get 65 HP and 24 strength, and the abilities Striker's Strength plus 3% and Skill Damage plus 10%. Unbind Together We Stand twice to upgrade its glorious shot of Ronzel and Berserker, and dump 4 extra copies in to boost its maximum HP to 140, its maximum strength to 52, and bump its abilities to 4% and 15% respectively. Together We Stand is like a mix of Flower in the Fray and the Warrioresses, but without a bonus to critical damage. It has the exact same stats, with the skill damage up of the former and the force strike interaction of the latter. The Warrioresses will be better on maps which lack spawns to wipe out with force strikes, but Together We Stand has a higher ceiling on longer maps with many enemies. Regardless, stick Together We Stand on a close range unit with 3 offensive skills, mix in some force strikes here and there, and you won't be disappointed. Definitely hang on to and level up this one. Next up, we come to the new 4-star Wyrmprint for this banner, Samurai Siesta. And right away, I have to praise the artwork and name on this one. Taro and Mikoto look amazingly tranquil in this scene. And sadly, that's about the best aspect of this Wyrmprint. It only has one ability, Sleep Res plus 40%, with the max stats on a single copy being 70 HP and 19 strength. For certain units who have less than 100% sleep res, this might seem decent for the current raid, but that's a bit of a trap. Just by participating in the raid, you'll get the free Wyrmprint Better Together, mentioned earlier, which provides a lower amount of sleep res, but also boosts damage to the raid boss, and boosts strength when HP is above 70%. Not to mention, is easier to fully unbind. Even if you unbind Samurai Siesta, and unlock its gorgeous refined art after 2 copies, you would need to unbind it another time for a total of 3 unbindings for its max stats to surpass those of Better Together. Once fully unbound, you do get 50% sleep res, and Samurai Siesta's max HP is 141, and its max strength is 51. A weirdly offensive spread for a Wyrmprint with a defensive ability, and these stats are identical to those seen on One with the Shadows and Happier Times. But I would suggest you don't unbind Samurai Siesta fully. It's most likely just not worth it. Even as a collector, unbind it twice for the adorable cats, then sell the extra copies for Eldwater. Now for the 5-star Wyrmprints, starting with Cleo's Ruse. Once again, we're met with some beautiful artwork, even if I can't quite tell what's happening with Xander's face there. And in case you missed the connection, this piece is based on one of the game's current castle stories. As for stats and abilities, pull 1 Cleo's Ruse, and you can attain a max HP of 91 and max strength of 25, with recovery potency up 10% whenever the user's HP is above 70%, and a 30% last defense ability. Unbind Cleo's Ruse twice for more artwork, or do so fully, and its abilities will be bumped to 13% and 40% respectively, along with max stats of 183 HP and 57 strength. Cleo's Ruse is clearly meant for a healer, and the overall stat spread and kit of Cleo's Ruse are similar to the other 2 healing-focused Wyrmprints at 5-star. Give Me Your Wounded and Auspex's Prayer. Give Me Your Wounded gives less healing potency, but doesn't require the 70% threshold. Auspex's Prayer, on the other hand, gives more, but demands a higher threshold of full HP. For secondary abilities, Give Me Your Wounded boosts user defense at full HP, while Auspex's Prayer provides curse res. Overall, I think Cleo's Ruse edges out Give Me Your Wounded as the best Wyrmprint for healers, but not by so much that you'd want to pull just to replace it. Cleo's Ruse is a great pickup if you enjoy healers, or for any healers you have, but its use is fairly limited, basically raw stats on other unit types. And if Cleo's Ruse sets a new bar for healers, then the final Wyrmprint, Jewels of the Sun, may do the same for attackers. A single copy can reach a max HP of 85 and a max strength of 31, which are standard among offensive 5-star Wyrmprints, but it's the ability that really sets Jewels of the Sun apart. This Wyrmprint marks the first time we've seen skill haste on a 5-star with 5% at base, and we also get a strength boost of 5% when user HP is above 70%. The 2 closest Wyrmprints to Jewels of the Sun are Worthy Rivals and the offensive all-star Levin's Champion, which have similar stats once fully unbound. Once fully unbound, Jewels of the Sun's max HP rises to 176, and its max strength hits 64. Its skill haste goes up to 6%, and its strength boost goes up to 8% when above the 70% HP threshold. Honestly, all 3 of these Wyrmprints are great. It's actually pretty tough to evaluate Jewels of the Sun without a lot of testing on how quickly skills fill up, but I have really liked the skill haste co-ability on archers. Worthy Rivals has Skill Prep and Broken Punisher, and I think Jewels of the Sun narrowly beats it. Skill Prep only benefits players once, while Skill Haste is active the whole quest, although Broken Punisher is very good. Levin's Champion is a tougher comparison, since it has so much inherent synergy. It boosts critical rate and critical damage, but both are among the strongest attack-oriented Wyrmprints around, and suffice to say, Jewels of the Sun is worth using if you do happen to summon it. And that's all for Wyrmprints. I'm definitely more impressed with the 5 stars here than on the previous showcase, but Samurai Siesta and the Halidam's Picnic are unfortunately extremely narrow. Moving on to dragons, we start things off on a very positive note. Yup, the game's only dragon with a healing skill, Phoenix, is the 4-star focus dragon this time around. Phoenix is an outstanding dragon for flame tanks, healers, and even support units, and this will likely be your best chance to get her. Since I talked about her in my Guide to Dragons video, I'll just make 2 main points. 1. Phoenix has no competition when it comes to increasing HP in the flame pool. The only other flame dragons whose ability touches HP are Cinder Drake and Kindling Imp, both 3 stars with unremarkable attack skills. 2. Phoenix's regenerative flame is bonkers. It's excellent for getting deathless clears on quests, and one of the few moves that can really recuperate an entire team. What's more, it's one of the few ways to incorporate healing onto a team which lacks a dedicated healer. Having even 1 copy of Phoenix is a pretty good investment, and fully unbinding her isn't bad either, even if it's unlikely for most low-spending players. That's because Phoenix provides a whopping 45% HP boost to flame adventurers once fully unbound, which would make her more potent than an HP-focused 5-star flame dragon at base, if one were to be introduced down the road. Overall, I definitely think you should try pick up a copy if you don't have one yet. The new dragon on the showcase is just as flashy as Phoenix, perhaps even more so, but with a focus on offense instead of healing. Cerberus comes to us from Grand Blue Fantasy, and she has identical stats to the other 5-star flame dragon in the gacha pool, Agni, but her skill also inflicts a number of debilitating conditions on enemies, namely burning and strength and defense -5%. This extra utility makes Cerberus even better on attackers and support units. The trade-off is that her skill has a different area of effect than that of Agni's, but this can be worked around with good timing and play. Because of that difference though, it's fair to say she doesn't outright power creep Agni, as they're certainly both very good summons. If you've already invested in Agni or have a fully unbound Ifrit, it's unlikely you really need Cerberus. She will almost certainly be an upgrade over Pele and Brunhilde, and possibly Ifrit and Agni as well, so she's by no means a bad pull, but look at your unit pool before summoning just for her. I know since my strongest flame dragon right now is Pele, she'll be one I'm looking out for. So all said, much like last time, the dragons this summon showcase are both great. It all comes down to what you need to round out your flame team, but both Phoenix and Cerberus are fantastic pulls. Now, at last, we get into the 3 new adventurers on the showcase. For each, I'll first look at their kits and stats, then suggest a few Wyrmprints, dragons, and teammates that would be useful in building them. I won't talk about weapons this time, since you should basically use the strongest ones available to you. Let's begin with the new 3-star Shadow Adventurer, Vita. She's a dagger support unit with a max HP of 716 and a max strength of 429, which, incidentally, is identical to the other 3-star Shadow Dagger unit, Vice. But at the very least, Vice's kit is fairly different, focused on inflicting sleep and punishing broken foes. Vita has a solid kit, but she seems to be held back intentionally, just like many other 3-stars in the game. She has the usual 3-star nerf of weaker stats, a worse co-ability, worse ailment res percentages, and a third ability which adds slightly more of that same ailment res, but not enough to reach 100% total. Her biggest obstacle though is Orion, the 4-star Shadow Dagger unit, who has better stats and an equal if not better kit. Both Orion and Vita have skills which inflict blindness, a powerful effect, but Orion can do so using his quicker to charge first skill. Vita does have a nice combo with her Cunning Edge and Force Strike damage up ability, especially since the Dagger Force Strike is easy to execute, but Orion has Flurry Devastation, also good for dagger units and just as simple to manage. In the end, Orion just seems better than Vita in most cases. Until a map comes out where her stun res matters a lot, and Orion's paralyzed res won't cut it, he's probably going to be a better choice if you do have him. If you don't, though, Vita is solid, not bad for a 3-star unit, and her 4-strike theme looks fun to use. When it comes to builds, I suggest playing up Vita's emphasis on 4 strikes with Wyrmprints like Together We Stand or the Warrioresses. For dragons, Juggernaut will enhance her offensive capabilities, while Nidhogg, if you have him, is more of a balanced choice that furthers her blindness theme. Of course, Silk isn't a bad pick either. For teammates, Nefaria is the obvious choice, thanks to her Blind Punisher ability, and you could round out such a team with Zace, another 3-star unit who can blind his foes. After Vita, the next new adventurer is the 4-star Flame Wand support unit, Sinoa. She's only the 2nd Flame Wand unit in the game, after the 3-star Xania, and her max HP is 762, with a max strength of 473. Can I just take a moment to express how vibrant Sinoa's artwork is? Besides being colorful, it also gives us a sense of her clumsy and chaotic personality, and that's reflected in her skills as well, with the first move in her kit being unlike anything we've seen in the game so far. Custom Concoction randomly buffs strength, defense, critical rate, or max HP, with the amount of these buffs scaling up as you upgrade the skill. And while this seems wacky and fun, I can't imagine it being pretty reliable in practice. For one, this skill will take fairly long to charge, even though it's a first slot skill, roughly 30% longer than the first skill on Xania. Moreover, the Wand co-ability is skill damage up, so Sinoa loses out on a bit of synergy because she lacks 2 attacking skills. I do think Custom Concoction looks more appealing when you factor in Sinoa's buff time up ability, but you have to remember that this is locked away behind a 5-star promotion. Despite this, Sinoa being the wand unit with the highest stats in the flame pool is a pretty big redeeming factor. For a pure flame team, she and Xania are the only 2 options for a skill damage co-ability, and Sinoa's is more significant at base, 5% versus 3%. Add to that extra strength at full HP, not the best, but not bad on a ranged unit, and Sinoa starts to look like a pretty good unit to round out a flame team, especially one facing off against sleep-inducing threats, thanks to her innate sleep res going up to 100%. So Sinoa has some positives going for her, with the only real comparison being Xania, and to a lesser extent Joe, who's the only flame archer, and hence only source of skill haste on a mono flame team. I would want to test and experiment with her first skill a bit more, but the rest of her kit is solid enough that I do think Sinoa is a fine unit. As for builds, none of the 4-star Wyrmprints really stand out to me when it comes to her. None are bad based on stats alone, but none seem excellent. I would consider taking a risk on the 3-star Wyrmprint Bellathorna, since it's the only source of buff time up on a Wyrmprint, at the very least just to try it out. At 5-star, I think the best pick is likely Valiant Crown. The strength double buff will trigger 25% of the time you use Sinoa's custom concoction, and the skill damage helps Blundering Bomber and her weapon skill. For dragons, I think Sinoa is a great candidate for Phoenix, making her even more of a jack of all trades. The new 5-star dragon, Cerberus, would be another amazing choice with its capacity to debuff and cause burn. When it comes to teammates, Aoi and Melsa are especially good partners for taking on sleep-inducing foes, especially since they each have 2 attack skills to reap the highest benefit from Sinoa's co-ability. And that brings us to our final unit for today. Wait, what's this? A male 5-star focus unit? I know some of you are very happy to see this, and hopefully the rest of you can satiate yourselves with Cerberus. This banner does take place in the desert, right? The thirst is real. Anyway, I'm glad to report that Naveed is an excellent adventurer for those of you who do like him. Naveed is an attack-type flame swordsman with 754 max HP and 505 max strength. There are a mix of factors that make Naveed so good. For one, he's blessed with 5-star stats, to be expected at this point, but also a 5-star quality version of the Dragon Haste co-ability, seen only on Xander so far. Besides that, Naveed specializes in slogging through long matches with many foes, not only thanks to Slayer's strength, but also the interaction between his Radiant Bauble and Crystalline Blade skills. Using the former boosts his defense, furthering his ability to grind through enemies, while also enhancing Crystalline Blade with additional hits, including a massive one after the 5th use. Skill Prep, also in Naveed's kit, and accessible early since he's a 5-star, speeds this skill combo along. Tack on his last ability of Sleep Res up to 100%, and Naveed is perfect for dispatching the Wind Imperial Onslaught. There are 2 other Flame Swordsmen, however, and that may ultimately limit your need for Naveed. Carl and Naveed are similar enough that you are probably best saving your Wyrmite if all you want is Naveed, but already have Carl. Carl does less damage, but he's tankier. He also has Slayer's strength, albeit a slightly weaker version. He has the same exact Sleep Res ability, has a skill to boost team strength, and a great third ability that ups his strength when at or above 70% HP. These 2 units are quite close, despite Carl being a 4-star. As for Yuden, well, there's definitely more of a gap. Yuden's become a popular choice mostly since his stun res lets him handle high Midgard Stormer more easily. But outside of that context, I'd say Naveed is clearly better in most situations. Finally, we come to build suggestions for Naveed. Once again, Valiant Crown is an exceptional 5-star Wyrmprint since Naveed can guarantee himself consistent self-buffs to defense, and immediately to boot thanks to skill prep. I also like Naveed's signature Jewels of the Sun since its skill haste helps facilitate his game plan of repeatedly using his skill combo, and its HP above 70% strength boost is just gravy for an attacker like him. For dragons, take your pick of the offensive flame dragons, Agni and Cerberus, and if you don't have those, Ifrit, Pele, or Brunhilde will do just fine as well. For teammates, I think you really want a solid healer like Verica, since Naveed really wants to get in there, use his skills a lot in the fray, yet be able to survive to realize his full strength. Mikoto has much the same game plan, so I think he also makes a strong teammate, even if he and Verica have stun res instead of sleep res. Okay, and that covers each and every Wyrmprint, dragon, and adventurer on this showcase. Now for the question, should you pull or not? The banner is exciting, and the only real losers are the Halidam's Picnic, Samurai Siesta, and to a lesser extent Vita, who's still good if you lack other Shadow Dagger units. So I do plan on summoning, but let me apply one caveat to this. If you already have a well-rounded flame team, especially if you already have a copy of Phoenix, you could easily skip here and be just fine. She'd be great to fully unbind, but you can't realistically expect to do so as a free-to-play player, even with a lot of Wyrmite. Personally, I only have 3 unique flame dragons, so I'm looking for a 4th to round out my flame team. I lack Phoenix, and wouldn't mind More Together We Stand to unbind the 1 copy I already have. That and Jewels of the Sun being great for my Eleonora, and this is an easy banner for me to pull on. Not necessarily to get Naveed, but just to round out my flame team and my collection overall. So if you already have a good Flame Squad and Phoenix, I would honestly suggest you skip, at least from a strategic perspective. If you love any of these units, of course, don't let that advice hold you back. And that's going to do it for this Summon Showcase review. Thank you so much for watching. Will you be summoning on this showcase? Have you already pulled something wonderful? Let me know with a comment below, and stay tuned for my own summoning video coming very soon. With that, thank you as always for supporting the channel, and I'll see you next time.